Shalom, shalom, Mishpachah. What an interesting time to live in. It's a time for us to really listen and to really search out, that we might see and have ears that hear, to have a heart to turn and repent to Yahuwah. That in all things, Yahuwah, that we would recognize that your plan is your plan. We need to do all we can to serve you, Yahuwah, through all these things. Some of us have gone through, some of us are going through, some of us are going to go through. There's nothing that's not common to the brethren that is around the world. Yahuwah, I beseech you for perception into all things you and only you, and to function for you, for each and every one of us. Praise Yahuwah in Yahuwah's name. Yahuwah who came to rescue us. Praise Yah. Praise Yah. Hey, today we're going to start diving into Job chapter 3. Quite the interesting chapter, I would say. We're going to do verses 1 through 7. And first, let's just read through it. We're not going to do every Hebrew number I have up here, but a lot of those are just words that I found interesting and put them up there. And if you're interested, there may be other words you're interested in. I would beseech, and I would think it would gladden Yahuwah's heart that we took a look, each and every one of us, into the depths of what he has for us. All right. Apparently my computer's going to whiz for us, as usual. Okay. Job 3:1 through 7. After all this, after all the things that happened, and his 3 neighbors showed up, Iyob says, he opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. Well, let's leave that for now. And Iyob spoke and said, let the day perish on which I was born. And the night it was said, a male child has been conceived. Let that day be darkness. Let not Eloah from above seek for it, nor let light shine upon it. Let darkness and the shadow of death buy it back. Let a cloud dwell on it. Let all that blackens the day frighten it. That night let darkness seize it, and let it not be included among the days of the year. Let it not come into the number of the months. Look, let that night be silent. Let no singing come into it. Just a second here. I do have it there. Okay, so that's how it reads. So we immediately would think up here that this says, because it says so in the English, that it's the day of his birth. Now I'm not saying down here he didn't say, let the day perish on which I was born. But up here, there is no word for birth. It's not there. Okay, so first I want to cover just a little bit of topic, and then we'll go into it. The combination of words used for birthday, which is this one, and this one. And you find this one in verse 3. That's the combination for birthday in Genesis 40:20. Of course, here is separated by other words in between them, and that's okay. That's okay. But it still doesn't make it your birthday. Let me put it that way. We're going to see that. When Iyob's sons were feasting each in his day, we do not see the 3205, which is your English word for born, present in the context. Not anywhere that I saw. Could have missed it. It might be separated by a lot of verses. I don't know. The Greek word used here in Job 3:1 is G2550. Well, let's go look at that. Let's go to the polyglot. And cursed his day. Gentle day, that is literally the time space between dawn and dark, or the whole 24 hours. Sometimes it could be several days as reckoned by the Jews. Figuratively a period of time, also defined more or less clearly by the context. Okay? So we're going to see that while he's talking about the day of his birth in 3, it's more than that. And we can see when his sons, we'll just show that, were doing their thing here. When the days of their feasting where is that? Each in his day. Each one his day. So we see no 3205 in there. That's each one his day. Here we have his day. Again, we have the same word about his sons. I'm not saying it wasn't their birthday. I'm saying we can't tell by that context. Okay, so back to this. In Matthew, the Greek word for Herod's birthday is G1077, and it's birthday ceremonies. It's not G2550. It looks to be from the same Greek root line as the word for the birthday, right here. Looks to go to the same root line as the born day, but it doesn't go to the root line for this day. So you have a conundrum in there. Could it be the boys were celebrating a birthday? We can't tell for sure. Maybe later on we'll run across it in the book of Iyob. I don't know. Well, yeah, I don't know. I can't remember. But that's just some information. I don't have anything slamming my fist down and saying it is or it isn't. It's just information. So that people can look for themselves and listen to the voice of Yahuwah. And see what Yahuwah reveals. Okay, so I had to make a cut in the video, so if things went a little wonky there for a second and the switch over, you know why. So, beginning at verse 1, Iyob opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth, as we just saw, is not there, though it is. He did say later on, perish the day I was born. But right now he is talking about the time up until this day that he was at right now. There are people who will argue that. Okay. That's okay. I think we're going to show what Yahuwah says in the language and behind it in the Hebrew today, and actually in life around us. So it's H7043. It's kalal, a primitive root, to be causatively make, light, literally swift, small, sharp, etc. Or figuratively easy, trifling, vile, etc. In Benner's lexicon, it is AHLB, Ancient Hebrew Lexicon of the Scriptures. 1426 BV. We can see the V is to be light, to be swift or cursed. Curse, something that is light in stature, cursed or worthless. At the three-letter child root, we see something that is light in weight or stature. Here we have the kuf lam. The action is gather, the concrete is shepherd. The pictograph kuf is a picture of the sun at the horizon and the gathering of the light, and the lam is a picture of the shepherd's staff representing authority. Combined, these mean gathering to the staff. When the shepherd called the sheep, they swiftly came to him. The staff of the shepherd was his tool of authority. With it he would direct, discipline, and protect the flock. So down here on the bottom left, we have the kuf and the lam and the lam. The kuf again is the rising sun, behind, last, rise, east cycle, time, distinguish, gathering of the light on the horizon. The lam is the staff, the shepherd's staff, to learn, to teach, to yoke, forward, goad, tongue, control. Same thing, another lam. What Iyob is saying here is that the whole of his days, up until this point, are light in weight and stature. Because he was born, yes, but he's talking about the whole of his days up until this point, as almost meaning nothing, as far as he can tell, because he doesn't have the full perception of Yahuwah yet, which we're going to see, and his seed is gone. His seed is gone. What's it matter anymore? Iyob was having an issue seeing Yahuwah through the mess. He never spoke wrongly of Yahuwah. He never cursed Yahuwah. Iyob just got this little bit of pride left to get rid of, which again we're going to see towards the end. On one level of this concept, I believe Iyob still has a small measure of pride in thinking he knew all the plans of Yahuwah. And he wasn't there from the beginning, as we're going to see Yah tell him later on. Yah works out all things for good to those of us who love him. You can be walking maturely and straightly and fearing Yahuwah. It doesn't mean that there aren't going to be trials. There are going to be trials. So, thinking he knew all the plans of Yahuwah, yet on the other hand, the depths of the sorrow being so great, even to grieve one's own life, or why they were here in the first place, or what's this all about? I can't imagine. I can't imagine. I have no idea. I have never lost a child. People have. I don't have any idea. It must be terrible. I'm sure it's terrible. So he's in this state in the depths of grieving. And he's like, what's it all for? It's not, just forget it. Wants out. So that's part of the reason why I believe that chapter 41 is all about the pride of Leviathan, right before going into Iyob being sorrowful in chapter 42. Yet, Allah was stating that the three neighbors did not speak what was right of Yah, but his servant Iyob, then that says automatically by default Iyob did. This is just the beginning of Iyob, while not cursing Allah, still having that last bit of pride, even in the massive grief and the massive loss, thinking things should be another way. I shouldn't even be here. Forget I was even born. The whole time cycle, everything here, you, me, the next brother, the next sister, the one that's just coming out, the one that's getting ready to just come out, It's all about being gathered to the staff of the shepherd no matter what we're going through. It's all about the cycle of time. It's all about the cycle of time. Hearing his voice in this cycle of time, in each individual cycle of time. Seeing Yahuwah in this cycle of time. Having clear perception of Yahuwah in our cycle of time. Our hearts turning and repenting that we might be part of the kahal and the assembly that is called in the end to hear the Torot and pass judgment, having silver and gold, getting rid of the wood, hay, and the stubble. Is all about our cycle of time. And it all works together with everyone and everything around us. It's all a cycle. And this is the time of our cycle. We have those before us that were examples to us. It was all about their cycle. And being Yahuwah put them in the right place at the right time. And he knew those that weren't coming to him, he knew where they would be. It's all about he has a plan and he has a purpose. So Iyob was certainly having a hard time with this season of his life, and I would think any of us would. I mean, I can't imagine not having a hard time with this type of season. And of course we had the Eltah in there, apparently contracted, the Eltah. I'm not going to read all that. We know what the Eltah is. The L is a picture of an ox. The Tah is a picture of two crossed sticks used to make a sign or a mark. Combine these pictures represent an ox moving toward a mark. And we are to be yoked to the lead ox, plowing the field, moving towards the mark. Etc., etc. Okay? And they're headed for it. So he's light in weight, light in stature, all these things. He's moving towards the mark. He's moving towards the mark, yet now all these things have happened. Up until this day, all these things have now been on his cycle. Even his sons feasting that he had to sacrifice for. That's still not a good part of the cycle, but it was part of the cycle. And then they died. All right. So I got some notes down. I got notes on all the screens. He was, that I'm probably won't remember to read most of them, but he was plowing along toward the mark in all he had heard he was to do. Shema. Job 42, we're going to touch on that somewhere in here. But there was still not a full perception of his life cycle as a whole and his part in it, because he didn't even want it. He didn't have a full perception. But he's going to get it at the end. What an example for us. The patience of Iyob. Not only in all the things that happened, but in the 3 neighbors that came, and in Eloah, reading in the quote-unquote right act. His part, whether Iyob knew it or not, whether he will ever know it or not, affected the whole picture that we now have today. Or it should. It should. When we come to this depth and these things happen, rest assured, Yahuwah's hand, let me not say it that way, Yahuwah's not unaware. In the midst of this type of pain, or any type of pain, or we must continue traveling towards the mark. Am I saying don't be in pain? Am I saying don't grieve? Am I saying these thoughts won't come to you? They just may. It could happen to me. It just might. I think we're coming up into a season where we're going to see a lot of things happen. I'm already seeing them happen. This is really important for us to remember that there's a goal at the end. We are plowing towards a mark. Are we planting this seed in others? Are we watering it? And are we allowing Yahuwah to give the increase? Does it mean well, let me not, that's enough. We see the same word in Jeremiah 15:10. And I didn't want to go into the whole chapter. I just want to show you that it's here. And this is not him cursing his own day of birth. It's just the people that don't want to listen to him. Who were? Yisrael. Stiff-necked, hard-headed, don't want to listen. Jeremiah 15:10. Woe to me, my mother, that you have borne me, a man of strife and a man of contention to all the earth. I have neither lent for interest, nor have men lent to me for interest. All of them are reviling me, are cursing me, are treating me as light in weight and in stature. Yet we don't even have this last dividing point between us, which is mammon. Or this dividing point, I think it's going to be the last dividing point. We're going to choose between Yahuwah and mammon. They're all making light of him. Because all he wants is for them to come to Yahuwah. And look at what Yirmiyahu went through. In the dungeon, in the midst of the pain, in Yerushalayim, Yahuwah said, did I not direct you for your good? Did I not intercede for you in a time of dysfunction and in a time of distress against the enemy? Yahuwah works out all things for the good of those who love him. It may not look functional to us, but he's looking from a much higher vantage point than we are. And Iyob spoke and said, so he cursed the day, his whole life cycle, his whole function here in, I'm going to use some words, I don't know, I'm just going to use them, in this realm. He just wanted never to be born. That way none of this whole life cycle would have happened. He would have never seen it. Would have affected a lot of people. I think Yahuwah probably knows better. As much as we want to take things into our own hands. Do I understand that? Let the day perish on which I was born, and the night it was said a male child has been conceived. We're going to look at this word perish, H6. 1027 CV in the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon. To perish. To be separated from the whole life or functionality in its sin. Oh, we'll see that on the next page. I think. Maybe. It's an L, a bait, and a dal. The action is perish, the concrete is lost, the abstract is destruction. A wanderer is one alone or lost. A place separated from people is a place of ruin. At the two-letter parent root or harmony, we have a bait and a lam from right to left. The action is separate, the concrete is alone, the abstract is destruction. The bait is a picture of a tent. The dal is a picture of the tent door. The two pictographs represent the door of the tent. The father of the tent often sat alone at the door of the tent. Here he could receive shade from the sun, watch over his household, and watch the road for approaching strangers. Okay, so I want to read out of the Theological Word Book. Prayerfully. Yes, here it is. It is number 2. And I just want to read just a little bit on pages 3 and 4. Okay. Now this is speaking, of course, of the whole root line. Actually, it's speaking of abad here. It starts off with that. The verb abad is a common word for to die. Okay, kind of. Or, in the case of things, reputation, etc., to pass away. The cognates in Akkadian, Arabic, and Ugaritic express similar ideas. In the peel and hiphil stems, it is used transitively in the sense of kill or break down, houses, idols, kingdoms. Egypt was destroyed, ruined, though Pharaoh would not admit it. Yehoshua warned that if Israel sinned, they would soon perish from the land. Probably the main theological question about this root is whether it refers merely to physical death or also to eternal punishment. It is not an easy question. Obviously, the word usually refers to some great loss, in most cases death. Esther's famous self-dedication, "If I perish, I perish," has had her self-sacrificing death in view, and that was it. Okay. That's really all I wanted to read out of there. Psalms 49 and 73 are frequently cited as references to a future life. So some of the Psalms, some of the times it's used to a future life as well. So he wanted the day to perish on which he was born. And let's leave it at that for now. So these are the letters: an L, a Beit, and a Dal. The L is the ox head, leader, power, strength, authority, yoke. The Beit is the house, the Dal is the door. Okay? So we saw that let's let the day of his birth on the calendar. Okay, the day of his birth. Nobody took a day off the calendar. That's just not what it's saying. It's him becoming present in this world. And all the days of his lifetime that had been since his birth, and possibly that which is to come, because here he is. Be separated from life, from the whole, from functionality, because how many of us would feel functional in this instance? How many of us think that a situation like Iyob was going through was functional, was Tob? I wouldn't. So he wanted to be separated. This was immediately from being yoked into this world. Because he was the father of the house. And he was watching all these things come to pass. Okay? He was sitting at the door. It's a picture of him sitting at the door of his tent, being in charge of his house. Wanted to be saved from being yoked to this world to begin with. To all this to begin with. It was too much for him. Or so he thought at the time. Than any of us would. That he would lie in peace, having been saved from the sorrows and not having to continue to strive to enter the door. Okay? Through all of these sorrows. That was where he was at as he was grieving. See verses 13 to 22. So, not only not to be born, but Iyob goes so far back as to not even being conceived, which comes from the seed, which is the L to the Taw. Not just not just born, but B also. And he had no other children. So that even had, some people have other children when one dies. Not that it makes it any less worse. I'm not saying that. But he just didn't want to be yoked to this world anymore, is the main point. He wanted to be separated from this life and everything that was going on in the entire time cycle that he himself, just for himself, there he was. Because if he was gone, the children were gone. And none of it mattered, right? Because the dead know nothing. Let the day perish on which he was born. And here's the word for born, to give birth to children. The day on which he was born. Okay? And beyond. Okay, so he didn't want to be here. He didn't want to be born into this sinful, fallen state. But yet he's made all the difference. When we really get down and understand Iyob, or when these things happen in our own lives, and we really understand the perspective of Iyob in this chapter, and then towards the end of the book, when we really understand that and perceive what's going on in Iyob, he was at the right time, at the right place, because that's where Yahuwah had him. Just like these guys. These are the generations. Okay, let's look that up. Actually, let's go to Genesis 5:1. That's about, well, no, it's fine here. Well, oh, I'm in the Greek, no wonder. Same word, bear, okay? Generation, bear, born. Everything is in the right place at the right time per Yahuwah. These are the generations, H8435, of the Shemayim and their Eretz, when they were Ba'ar in the Yom that Yahuwah Eloah had made, the earth and the heavens. Obviously, I missed a word in here. It looks like I missed it twice. Looks like I missed it more than twice. I just can't stand that word. I don't know if I can replace it from here. Okay. This is the book of the generations of Adam. Okay? So, Adam had many things to go through. Being the first man that fell. Cain and Abel. And on down the line. Right, that was the place that Yahuwah had created him to be. Yahuwah was not surprised by what happened with Adam. He was not surprised what happened with the generations of Noah. He was not surprised what happened with Shem and Ham and Japheth. He was not surprised what happens with the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. He was not surprised that Shem would carry his name. He was not surprised that Terah would come through this line, and Terah would even lose a son who had a son, Lot. He was not surprised that Abraham would take Lot. He was not surprised that there became generations of Ishmael that are in the land by Hagar today. Galatians 4:22, I think it starts at. He is not surprised by the good, the tov, and the evil, the ra'ah, the function and the dysfunction that happens. It's all there for an example for us, that we might truly perceive who Yahuwah is, not be yoked to the world, which is going to perish in the end of sinful life. It's dysfunctionality. All that's going to perish as a whole. He's not surprised. Ecclesiastes 3:1. For every matter there is an appointed time. Who appointed that time? Yahuwah. Even a time for every pursuit under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time that things will perish. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to sow. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for battle and a time for peace. So we see here at Ecclesiastes 3:6, a time to get, a time to seek, and a time for things to perish. From things to be separated from the whole life or functionality, whether it be things or people or sons or daughters, or whatever the case might be. There's a time. A period of time, a moment, all these are a period of time, or a moment, or a season. We better be so intimate, ayin. We better so be perceiving and so intimate with Yahuwah that we recognize to be on the mark at every moment, at every period of time, in every season. Follow him. And if you're so intimate and can perceive with your eye who he is, a deep depth of perception, you'll be on the mark each and every, well, I won't want to say each and every time because we do fall. But it will forever change you, whether it be for a period of time, a moment that leads into a whole time period that rolls over into a season, or it's a whole season. Praise Yahuwah. We're coming up on a season. A period of time like no other. Moment by moment, time is beating into it. Beating and beating and beating and ticking and ticking and ticking. Huh, that's interesting. I've been listening to the clock for no reason lately. Well, I don't, let me say no reason. Tick, 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 tick. And he keeps pointing that out to me. Tick, tick, beat, beat, the beat of time, 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 time. It's beating. Matthew 10:34-39. Do not think that I have come to bring peace on the earth. I guess I forgot that's how that started. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to bring division. Oh, I didn't even realize this. A man against his father, a daughter against his mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are those of his own household, because they're not for Yahuwah. He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. I wonder how that looked for Iyob. I don't know. I don't remember seeing anything else that would tell us that. And he who does not take up his stake and follow after me is not worthy of me. At the appointed time, in the appointed season, no matter what it is, we need to take up our stake and follow after him. We need to be so intimate with him, time, that we are following after him, to be on the mark. He who has found his life here shall perish eternally. And he that has perished and not been yoked to this world and this life for Yahuwah's sake shall find it eternally. And we'll have some peace here in Shalom, because he is the master of Shalom if he's ruling in our heart. But if we find our life here, we will perish from it eternally. And if we perish from this world for his sake, we're going to find it in eternity. Could Iyob see that? I think he still needed some perception adjustment. We all do. I am certainly no better than Iyob by any stretch of the imagination. Who knows how we would act? Okay. And the night it was said a male child has been conceived. So this is not the word for son or ben or ish for man, or what's the Adam for man or male, or the other word for male. Is there one zakar? Is that, maybe that's just a concrete of male. This is a different word. This is Gabor, a warrior, one of great strength, a warrior, or authority, a master. We see here at this three-letter adopted root in Benner's lexicon, it's a gam, a foot, a bait, a house, a resh, a head. The action is to prevail. The concrete is warrior, one of great strength, a warrior, or authority, master, coming from the bait resh. Okay, I don't talk about it. Okay, so this beit resh is the family, because that's who's in the house, of heads. It's all about the barley and the wheat. The two harvests. The two harvests. The two grain harvests. The two main grain harvests. Okay? That's where we get the word pure, for pure language. So, he is saying here, or the night that one who was to be a warrior, who they said would be a warrior in the family of heads. Let that night perish. And this is conceived, H2029, HV, pregnant. The H is pregnant. We got a Hey-Resh Hey. The two-letter parent or harmony root, it's a Hey-Resh. The action is high, the concrete is hill. The Resh is a picture of a head. In Hebrew thought, all things are in motion. Nothing is just standing still. It's in all things are in motion, because the whole cycle is in motion. Because when it's in motion, whatever's, because it's all in motion. I'm not going there. We're not going to go down that physics path. All things are in motion. A mountain or hill is not inanimate, but the head of the landscape rising out of the ground. It is in motion because of the way of the spin around it. And everything else, okay, now we're going to go there, I guess. And everything else that is moving, whether it be you walking towards the mountain, okay, makes a difference in how the realm works, because now you've moved, okay? Everything is in motion. Stephanie, this is where we get the word for mountain. It's not the word for hill. This is your mountain. So, the seed of a warrior in the family of heads, one to be gathered to the staff in the end, they said that seed had been planted. But yet, he was conceived in sin from the fall of Adam. Yet to be a warrior in the family of heads and be gathered to the staff by overcoming all of life's circumstances. He was born, he was conceived and born in sin. One seed, we know the difference between the two seeds, and then this seed against that seed, okay? I'm not saying Yahuwah didn't have plans, and he was but we're all born into this sinful, fallen state. And he knew that. He let me out of here. I don't want to be yoked to this garbage anymore. It's all about the spin. However, as stated previously, Iyob was having an issue seeing Yahuwah through this completely, fully having a perception of Yahuwah through this mess. But he never spoke wrongly of Yahuwah. He might have had a little bit of pride left to get rid of, like he had something to do with this or that, but he never cursed Yahuwah. On one level, oh, I already said all that. Okay, again. Okay, that's all I got there. So, let the day perish, he says, on which I was born, not be part of this life, and this world, and this spin, and this cycle. And the night it was, says, a great warrior that would be in the family of heads, had been conceived. Let it perish. I wonder if he... Well, let me not say that. Sometimes we think, what if we'd been born during this era? Or what if we'd been born during that era? And let that day perish. And let me be born at another time. Or let it perish altogether. That was just a thought I hear people say sometimes. If I'd have been born in this era, things would have been so much different. But it wasn't what Yahuwah had planned. It was planned to be for us to be here at this day and this time, plowing towards the mark of Yahuwah, because that is the seed that is planted in us, in this sinful fallen world we've been born into. Romans 5. I don't know why I just got a 12 there, but we're going to read through 19. I guess that's what it says, yes. For this reason, no, let me back up. Let's back up to Let's back up to 8, because I guess we need to know what the reason's for, right? That's what it's there for. But Eloah proves his own love for us in that while we were still sinners, Mashiach died for us. Much more then, having now been declared right by his blood, we shall be saved from wrath through him. Because Yahuwah comes to rescue us. Always has. Did it in the garden. For if being enemies, we were restored to favor with Eloah through the death of his Son, through the death of the seed, through the death of the Word, so we could die to our flesh, much more, having been restored to favor, we shall be saved by his life. Because we follow what he did. In every moment, in every period of time, during every season. And not only this, but we also, what a time. He was here. Yahuwah, who came to rescue us, placed himself here at the right place, at the right time, doing all the right things. Well, he did them all right, okay? How much more us? Whatever the cycle brings. His cycle brought death. Physical death. Blood, sweat. Blood, sweat. Yeah, blood, sweat. How much more us? And not only this, but we also exalt in Eloah through our Master, Yahuwah, who came to rescue us, the Anointed, through whom we now have received the restoration to favor, can come back and now be out of the Aaronic priesthood and back into the priesthood of the King of Righteousness. For this reason, even as though one man's sin did enter into the world, and death through sin, and thus death spread to all men because all had sinned. Now here we are in this dysfunctional, sinful world. For until the Torah of the Aaronic priesthood, to be sure, well, let me come back up here. To be sure, sin was in the world before the Torah, the law of the Aaronic priesthood, was given. Because sin could not have been charged to anyone's account where there was no Torah. We know there was Torah in the garden. Don't eat of that tree. We know there was Torah because Cain got in trouble for murdering Abel. We know there was Torah because Noah was able to distinguish between the clean and unclean animals that were going onto the ark. Nevertheless, death reigned from the time of Adam to the time of Moshe. There was still Torah, and Iyob was following it. But sin was in this world since the fall of Adam. And therefore now we see this dysfunctionality that happened in Iyob's life. Let the day perish that I was born into this sinful, fallen world. My sons aren't obeying the Torah. I'm doing all I can to obey the Torah. I'm loving Yahuwah. I'm not, and now I'm not cursing his name. All these things, good, bad, and indifferent. He was still born into a sinful, fallen world, and death reigned from the time of Adam, that first sinful fallen state, to the time of Moshe, when the Aaronic priestly laws were given, because Aaron thought he was the priest. Even over those who did not sin by breaking a command, as Adam did. Okay, only one ate from the tree of life, the tree of good and evil, who is a pattern of the one to come. But the gift is not like the trespass. For if the many died by the trespass of the one man, how much more did Yahuwah's grace and the gift that came by the grace of one man, Yahushua Messiah, overflow to the many? So, this sinful, fallen, dysfunctional world is everywhere. But how much more Yahuwah, if we separate ourselves and allow our own lives to be lost to this world, that we might live eternally through the gift and the favor of Yahuwah, who came to rescue us. We'll see that at the end of Iyob. Nor can the gift of Yahuwah be compared with the result of one man's sin, right? Because we're overcomers. The judgment followed one sin and brought condemnation. There you go. But in Yahushua Messiah, there is no condemnation. But the gift followed many trespasses and brought justification. For if by the trespass of the one man, death reigned through that one man, how much more will those who receive Yahuwah's abundant provision of grace and the gift of a righteous reign in life through the one man, Yahushua Messiah? We're walking here with him to be in the reign, quote unquote, the practice, but the gift of righteousness in the reign of everlasting life, because we've been righteous here in this fallen, dysfunctional world, no matter what happens. We need to unyoke ourselves from this and the whole spin of it as much as we possibly can. We are to be in the world and not of it, even through trials. And I'm not saying that you can't feel like Iyob did. I'm not saying that, because I think I would. But we need to remember that Yahuwah works out all things for the good of those who love him, that we might reign with him in eternal life. And sure, there could be more joy down the road after the pain. There may not be. Consequently, verse 18, consequently, just as one... Oh, we read that. No, maybe we didn't. Consequently, got a little excited there. Just as one trespass resulted in condemnation for all people, so also one righteous act resulted in justification and life for all people that would come to him. All doesn't always mean all. For just as through the disobedience of one man the many were made sinners, so also through the obedience of the one man many will be made righteous. And this is the place that Iyob was at. In this sinful, fallen world, knowing that he needed to be unyoked and yoked to Yahuwah. Not quite having I don't know if he had the total full perception yet, and we're going to see that again, like I said. I know I keep saying that, but we will. I have a little note down here, Ezekiel 18:20. Y'all can read that if you want. Jeremiah 1:5. Being at the right place, at the right time, in the time that we're in, is no small matter. Before I formed you in the belly and knew you, and before you came out of the womb, I did set you apart. I appointed you a prophet to the nations. And so it is of Yahuwah. And look at the life of Yirmiyahu. And he spoke, and he spoke, and he told him, and he told him, and he told him, and he went through all kinds of terrible things there in Jerusalem. He was appointed to that. Not appointed to wrath. He's appointed to that, this here, to lose our life here. Galatians 1. (15 and 16). But when it pleased Eloah, who separated me from my mother's womb, and called me by his favor, to reveal his Son in me, that I might bring him the good news to the nations, I did not immediately consult with flesh and blood. Here's Paul speaking. Paul. When it pleased Eloah, who separated me from my mother's womb, and called me by his favor, to reveal his Son in me, that I might bring him, who is the good news, to die to the flesh, to see all things Yahuwah to the nations. Right place, right time, all the way across the board. Look where he started out. Killing the Messianists. I mean, he started out other stuff before that, but killing the Messianists. Right place, right time on the road to Damascus. Right place, right time can bring Yahusha. And now we have scripture. Letters written by him that we too, because right place, right time. Luke 1, 31 to 33. How much more us? And see, you shall conceive in your womb, and shall give birth to the house's seed, a son, a Ben, and call his name Yahusha, Yahuwah who comes to rescue us. And see, you shall conceive in your womb, and shall give... Oh, I said that already. So we've got the conception and the birth. For us, that we might get unyoked from all things in this life. He shall be great, and shall be called the house's seed of the Most High, because that is who he is. That is what he is. And Yahuwah Eloah shall give him the throne of his father Dahud, and he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever, and there shall be no end to his reign. It's all part of the plan. Even he himself, the Word, everything El to the Taw, the Word made flesh, right place, right time, right person, right people, all of them were there in the cycle. Miriam, the taught ones, John the Baptist, all were there. The ones, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the ones that came against him, the ones that believed in him. Right place, right time. Written for us. To know right place, well, written for more reasons than that. Right place, right time. Matthew 1:21. And she shall give birth to a son, and you shall call his name Yahuwah who came to rescue you, for he shall shaw his people from their sins. And all this came to be in order to fill what was spoken by Yahuwah through the prophet, saying, See, an Alma shall conceive, and she shall give birth to a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which from the Hebrew is El with us. El was with us. Right place, right time, prophesied it to the right person that wrote it down, so that it all falls in a cycle. We are appointed these things. Does he wish that we should sin because we're appointed that? No. Nonetheless, that's the place where we are on the cycle. He knows that. So here's our warrior. Whatever it is that's happening or going to happen, it's going to get ugly, whatever it is, Yahuwah, 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 Yahuwah. Listen for the voice. Seek him. so that you would have clear perception. And we would have, all of us, not just you, me too, perception of Yahuwah, 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 Yahuwah. This that I talked about coming from the family of heads goes to this verse. Even the elect would be deceived if that were possible. Even the elect would be deceived if the fact be they weren't warriors in the family of heads. This goes back if they weren't warriors. I know that reads different in the Greek and possible. This is about being a warrior in the family of heads, making the first resurrection. Hebrews 11. Now, I'm not going to read it all. Thought I was, but I'm not. I would encourage you to go back and just think about, as you read about each person. I'll start off a little bit and then I'm going to go over to the end. And walking this thing out is the substance of what is expected and the proof of what is not seen. Belief. It's an action. For by this the elders obtained witness. By belief. By everything being and knowing, we saw it, the generations is at the right place, at the right time. We understand that the ages were prepared by the word of Eloah, so that what is seen was not made of what is visible. Okay, by belief, I really didn't want to touch on that one. By belief, by action, Abel offered to Eloah a greater slaughtering than Cain, because they were both at the right place. That's what was appointed to them. They did what was on their cycle at the right place, at the right time. Do we want that anyone should sin and do what Cain did? No. Nonetheless, we live in this fallen, sinful world. And this is what Iyob was saying. Take me out of this cycle. But we have Abel, who is now a picture for us, and Cain is a picture for us of what it means to bring the first fruits, what it means to when your brother kills you. We have a picture of Cain, of what it means not to bring the first fruits. So we have a picture in all these respects. Right place, right time, right place, right time. Verse 23, by belief, and it's all the same for all these guys. Think about what their whole life was about that we saw in the Tanakh as we read through the Tanakh. Well, if this wouldn't have happened, then that. Well, what about if that wouldn't have happened, then this, and how it... See, they're all... And I mean, don't go too far down that rabbit trail. But it's the right place and the right time. It's the right place and the right time. Even though we're in this sinful, fallen world, and the stuff's coming down. Verse 23. Moshe, having been born, was hidden 3 months by his parents, because they saw he was a comely child, and were not afraid of the sovereign's command. Right parents, not afraid of Yisrael, of the tribe of Lehi. Right place, right time. Moshe, in the boat, in the little ark, off down the reeds. Right place, right time. Pharaoh, sister coming to get him. Was it his sister coming to get him? Right place, right time. Everything's on a cycle. And we need to be so familiar with the voice of Yahuwah and seeking him so deeply that we're able to perceive. And not, of course, not sin. We don't need to be walking in sin. We don't need to be cursing Eloah. We don't need to be breaking the Torah. We know these things. We've been shown them. We can hear them. We can see them. We can repent. or relent and be given the gift of repentance, like Iyob did at the end. Here's what I want to really hone in on, though. Verse 32. And what more shall I say? For the time would fail me to relate of Gideon and Barak and Samson and Jephthah, also of Daud and Shemuel and the prophets, who through belief, who through walking this thing out, overcame reigns, worked righteousness, obtained promises, and stopped the mouths of lions. Right place, right time, searching for Yahuwah. Didn't mean bad stuff didn't happen. David sinned and lost a son. So since we live in this sinful, fallen world, we come through these things. For we need to lose our lives here. Quenched the power of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, out of weakness were made strong, became mighty in battle, put foreign armies to flight. Right place, right time. Women received back their dead by resurrection, and others were tortured, not accepting release to obtain a better resurrection. And others had trial of mockings and floggings and more, of chains and imprisonment. They were stoned, they were tried, they were sawn in two, they were slain with the sword. They went about in sheepskin and goatskins, being in need, afflicted, mistreated, of whom this world, and the people yoked to the world were not worthy, wandering in deserts and mountains and caves and holes in the earth. Having obtained witness through belief, all of these did not receive the promise. They did not see Yahusha. They did not receive the promise. Eloah having provided what is better for us, that they should not be made perfect apart from us. These are all the examples of people that were here. All the examples, they were conceived and born into this world in this sinful, fallen state. It is all around us. Right, we need to be on time every time. I know we'll fall sometimes, and he's not surprised by that. But this is what Iyob is saying at the beginning of chapter 3. I don't even want to be part of this anymore. We're in this sinful, fallen state, and yet they said I was conceived to be a warrior in the family of heads, and look at what I'm going through. And my thought for all of us, as it comes upon us, is look to Yahuwah. Look at Job 42, because I keep talking about it, so let's go look at it. Job 42. And we're going to do a sneak peek, right? Maybe, if I can get to it. There we go. And Iyob answered Yahuwah and said, You know that you are able to do all, that no purpose is withheld from you. I wonder what that word is. That no purpose is withheld from you. It's all in his hand. He knows. Who is this that hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore I declared, but I did not understand, matters too marvelous for me, which I did not know. Listen, please, and let me speak, I ask you. Then you would make it known to me. I have heard of you by the hearing of my ear, but now my eye sees you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes. I have obeyed you by the hearing of my ear. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Eloah. So we hear him, and we keep the Sabbath, and we do the feasts, and we use the name, and we do all the things that we have heard. Okay? I don't want to go too far into this. I think I want to go into it when we get to this chapter. But now, my eye sees you. This can be a physical seeing. He saw stuff all around. But it also can be a perception. So let's go look. Job 3. Oh no, not Job 3. Job 42. Sorry. But now, when? Right now. So intimate. Seeing so clearly with his eyes now that he is on the mark. Understanding more of the depths of the revelation of what he has been appointed to in the cycle. But now, my eye, this is his eye of continuance, seeth thee. To see or perceive something or someone, also to see visions. The ability to see, perceive, or have a vision. So it can be a physical seeing, but it can also be an in-depth seeing. My eye sees thee, the door of the eye. Because we have to hear with our ears, and we have to see with our eyes, that we come to the fullness of this repentance and relentance. It happens all along the way. Oh, now I know that. Now let me relent for that. Let me move on. Oh, yeah, no, now I did this. And so we have an understanding that grows. We don't just come into this and we just know everything. We still don't know everything. We'll never know everything, or we'd be But he's come to this place at this time, in this season, in this moment, where now he can truly perceive. Now I'm in this sinful fallen state. And I wasn't there that created any of this, which we'll see when we go through what Eloah says. But now I see I am part of this. Whatever the case may be, I am part of this. And I am going to lose my life here, so that I might have it then and there. And we'll see that at the end of 42 when we come to the chapter. Doesn't mean there's nothing to do. There's still things to do. Here in this world, and spiritually, of course. And but this is like the cycle of moving and walking with Yahuwah. It starts out with keeping the commands and doing the Sabbath and eating clean and using the name. But as we go along, we start to see how all these things start to work together. And it's not us. It's not us. It is not us. That's gang leader mentality. It's not us. John 9, 1-12. Yahusha, passing by, saw a man blind from birth. What? Blind from birth. We are blind from birth. I'd say we have a hearing issue too, but we are blind from birth. And his taught ones asked him, saying, Rob, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he should be born blind? Yahusha answered, neither this man nor his parents sin. Well, but that the works of Eloah might be made manifest in him. Because there is dysfunction in the world. This is a picture of everybody being born, save Yahusha, everybody being born blind, that the works of Eloah might be made manifest in us for life eternal. It is necessary for me to work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one is able to work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Having said this, he spat on the ground and made clay with his saliva that would have contained the chromosomes, and applied the clay to the eyes of the blind man. And he said, go wash in the pool of Shiloh, which means sent, which is Shiloh. So he went and washed and came seeing. Therefore the neighbors, so he went and he washed. We don't know if he washed his whole body. We don't know if he just washed his eyes. I think it was Yahusha that said, I immersed no one but my taught ones. And I know Paul said he immersed no one but Gaius and Crispus, but I think this is about the eyes. I really think this is about washing off of the eyes. It may be connected to immersion. Therefore, the neighbors and those who saw him before, and it may be connected to immersion, because once we are immersed, we don't see clearly at first. So let's continue. Therefore the neighbors and those who saw him before, that he was blind, said, is this not he who was sitting and begging? Others said, this is he. And others said, he is like him. He said, I am him. I'm the one that was born blind. So they said to him, how were your eyes opened? And he answered and said, a man called Yahusha made clay and applied it to my eyes and said to me, go to the pool of Shiloh and wash. And I went and washed, and I received sight. And they said to him, where is he? And he said, I do not know, because he hadn't known where he had went in the physical. He was born blind. We are born blind. And then we come to see in this physical world. And we see the mess that we're in, as is witnessed all the way through here with the conversation with the Pharisees. And who do you think you admire? Again, reading this guy the riot act, and who did he think he was, and how did this happen? And because they didn't think they were blind. They were born into the same sinful fallen world that we were born into. So expect that. When you first come to start seeing, expect that. Verse 34. If this one, and this is the man speaking, if this one were not from Eloah, he could have done not at all. Well, I'm 33, no wonder I can't read. They answered and said to him, you were completely born in sins. This is the Pharisee speaking to him, and you are teaching us like they weren't completely born in this sinful fallen world. We just read right from Adam, this was a sinful fallen world. And they cast him out. We better not have this attitude with the people and the brethren of Yahuwah. Yahusha heard that they had cast him out, and he said when he found him, and when he found him, he said to him, do you believe in the son of Eloah? And he answered and said, who is he, master, that I might believe in him? And Yahusha said to him, you have both seen him who speaks, that means he heard him, and he who speaks, he heard him, is with you. And he said, Master, I believe, and bowed down before him. He didn't see who he was right away. He didn't he knew that it was Yahusha. We know that it's Yahuwah. We start to do the things we're supposed to do. He stood right in front of the Pharisees and stood up for him and said, I don't know if this man's a sinner or not. Hey, he and if he was part of the congregation, he was keeping the Sabbath. He was doing all these other commands. But now he's come to a more in-depth sight and perception of who Yahuwah is. We are born blind. We are living in a dysfunctional fallen world. Iyob was living in a dysfunctional fallen world. When he was conceived, they said, this warrior, the word is to be one in the family of heads, to be a warrior. He was conceived, so it said for that. But yet here he was born into this state. Just take this, I'm so grieved, just take this whole dysfunction away right back from the moment I was conceived. Iyob obviously didn't know better. We don't know better. Or do we? Or are we gonna? And now that we know this, and we see the grief, are we gonna understand that? That all these things are going to work together for the good of those who love him. It doesn't mean there's not anything to do in this world. We are in the world, but we are not of it. We have a function. We have a purpose. We are here at this time for a reason. We might not ever know the reason. We don't even know if Iyob ever did or if he ever will. I would certainly think he doesn't know that there's a whole quote-unquote book on him in the scriptures. That's just my thought. I mean, the dead know nothing. Our purpose is to just keep going in this sinful, fallen world. Yahuwah being the one. It's all him. We must decrease so that he can increase through all the trials, through all the tribulations, and through all the pain. Let's read the rest of this. I think we're just going to look at one word real quick. Let that day be darkness. Let not Eloah from above seek for it, nor let light shine upon it. Let darkness and the shadow of death buy it back. Let a cloud dwell on it. Let all that blackens the day frighten it. That night let darkness seize it. Let it not be included among the days of the year. Let it not come into the number of months. Look, let that night be silent. Let no singing come into it. Let those who curse it, let those curse it who curse the day. Two totally different words for curse. That would be an interesting study for someone to do. Yes, it would. Who are ready to stir up Leviathan. Let the stars of its twilight be dark. Let it wait for light but have none, and let it not see the eyelashes of dawn. All these things, the cycle of the stars, the cycle of the light, the cycle of every dawn of the day, the cycle of the night, he's this cycle. He's in this cycle every day and every night. It's like we're every day and every night and every day and every night. We're in this cycle, and everything's moving. Everything's moving. Everything's moving in Hebrew thought. Everything. For it did not shut up the doors of my mother's womb, nor hide trouble from my eyes. It is truly Yahuwah and the true brethren that will comfort us at these times. I want to take a quick look, I think, at this word included. Job 3:6. Let it not be joined. Let me make this big. I should have done that before. I apologize. 1165 HV in the ancient Hebrew lexicon. To join. A uniting together in joy. This is chada, or it's where we get to be one, united together as one. Action is unite, concrete is unit, the abstract is unity, the head is wall, the dal is door. Combine these mean wall, door. A wall separates the inside from the outside. Only through the door can one exit or enter, uniting the inside with the outside, or outside with the inside. Do not let, I wish my function and my cycle were not even united with. I was not even here to be part of this whole thing. I wish I weren't even here. I wish I didn't come into the proverbial door of this world to begin with. Albeit, however, but Yahuwah has a purpose for you, for each of us. Just keep walking this out. Just keep searching. Just keep seeking, because we have no idea who we're going to affect. We spent a lot of years probably affecting other people negatively. Could have even been our own children. We're on the other side of the fence now. Okay? Our spin is different as we're moving through this realm. Our spin is different. Praise Yahuwah. Ezekiel 14, 13 and 14. Son of man. This is Yahuwah. I'm pretty sure this is Yahuwah speaking to Yehezkel. Yes, word of Yahuwah came to him. Son of man, when a land sins against me to commit a trespass, and I shall stretch out my hand against it, and cut off its supply of bread, and send scarcity of food on it, and cut off man and beast from it, even though these three men, Noach, Daniel, and Iyob, were in it, they would deliver only themselves by their righteousness, declares the Master Yahuwah. That's a big statement. There's 3 of them listed there. I know there's more in Hebrews, but there's 3 of them listed here. There's a reason there's those 3 listed here. But Iyob's one of them. Iyob's one of them. That we recognize the cycle. That we recognize the cycle that Noah was in as bringing forth the remnant. As we recognize the cycle that Daniel was in as being part of Babylon, in the world and not of it. And we recognize the cycle of Iyob as great suffering that's coming in the end, especially when the small remnant is gathered and those of Babylon would come against us. That we would know all these things on this cycle work together for the good of those who love Yahuwah. Wow. Wow. Right? Correct. Correct, Stephanie, correct. James 5, 10 and 11. My brothers, as an example of suffering and patience, take the prophets who spoke in the name of Yahuwah, did not curse the name of Yahuwah, spoke in the name of Yahuwah, were all Yahuwah. See, we called those blessed who endure. You have heard of the endurance of Iyob and saw the purpose of Yahuwah, that he is very sympathetic and compassionate. The purpose was that he had a purpose. That we're on a cycle. And this is the cycle that I am on, that you are on. And in the end, we'll see that it was to give him a double inheritance and spiritual seed. And spiritual seed. Praise Yahuwah. I'd like to thank Stephanie. I'd like to thank Donna. I'd like to thank Angela. I'd like to thank each one of you And Libby, I'd like to thank each one of you for talking and speaking and just looking at these things so that we could all have a deeper understanding and vision of Yahuwah. Yahuwah, Yahuwah, Yahuwah. Praise Yahuwah. We just thank you, Father. Father, we honor you. Whatever our day beholds, whatever this time period beholds, whatever the season beholds, Yahuwah, I ask that you give us strength as warriors in the family of Head Yahuwah to realize we are in this sinful, fallen world. But we were conceived to be these warriors, Yahuwah. That you would give us all perception, depth of who you are, Yahuwah, that we might walk through these things and come through these things, losing our life here and gaining our life there. Praise Yahuwah. Hallelujah.